Hi, everyone. Welcome to Getting to Know You. This week, our guest is Maggie Shelledy McAsey. Excited to have Maggie with us because it's been a long time coming. We were supposed to do the interview a month ago, and as you're going to learn, Maggie's got her hands full, not only with young Henry, but also demanding job and husband with demanding work and very, very busy. One of the reasons I wanted Maggie to be interviewed was because she, along with some other moms in the parishes, both parishes have started a young mamas group for St. Catherine's and St. Sebastian's, and it's very exciting. And this is the first interview that I'm doing that crosses generations, because we had Maggie's dad, of course, Rob Shelledy, a couple months ago now. So we're breaking boundaries here, Maggie. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for thinking of me, John.
Oh, of course, absolutely. Well,
Fun.
again, I feel like I say this with a lot of interviews, but it's no brainer because you're cool. You, you're
My
cool.
younger siblings might beg to differ, but
Yeah,
thank you.
younger siblings do that. That's right. But not only are you cool, you also are a total product of this parish, St. Sebastian's. You grew up in this parish. Your family is incredibly involved. But also the work that you're doing with the Young Mamas group, I think is so cool, and I want people to know about it. So I wanted to highlight that too. So no brainer, no brainer. But I know that life is a little bit stressful these days, right?
It's a lot. It's definitely, I mean, there are seasons to life, and this is a busy one. So yes, my husband Andy and I welcomed our son Henry just over a year ago. And also this year, Andy, a year ago this May, yeah, a year ago this month, Andy graduated medical school and is now in his first year of his medical residency at the Medical College of Wisconsin. So that's a busy time too.
Yes, I was going to make a joke about he's done and he's coasting now, but he's really
No, there's a lot of words to describe residency, and coasting is not one of them.
on call is one of them, right?
Uh,
Lots
yes,
on call. Yeah.
lots of on-call. Mhm.
Also, the two of you, as we can see, planned really well to have Henry enter this world right at the beginning of the global pandemic, correct?
Yes.
What was that experience like?
My mom joked that the entire world went on maternity leave with us. But I think they're definitely, um, yes, it's been quite a year. In some ways, it meant that there was not much expected of me beyond learning to be a mom in the last year, because so Andy and I are busy people, and we're pretty involved with a lot of different things, but when the world shuts down, those things stop. And so we didn't have any weddings, we didn't have any events, we didn't have any friends getting together, and so we just got to focus on learning to parent, which um, we we enjoy. Henry has brought a lot of joy to the last year and has been um, nice in that he takes attention, he demands attention, and so there's a lot to worry about for Henry, and it's he's been a nice distraction from a lot of the other things to worry about.
Yeah, but I'm sure, like, I mean, the truth is, it's probably, and I told you I wouldn't throw you any curveballs, but here's my first curveball. I'm sure it's been a mixed bag too, though, because yes, you've had the time to focus on Henry, but also any parent watching this interview knows that first year of life is hard and stressful, and you didn't have probably as much of the community to support or babysit or whatever, right? I mean, that had to have been challenging.
Yes, definitely. The hardest pieces of the last year for me were the moments that I realized that his life that year was going to look a lot different than I had always dreamed of, in like the thinking about what it would mean to welcome my first child into the world. There were a lot more people in those dreams than ended up being. But I will say, we there are some things that we're really grateful for, and one of those is that when Andy was getting ready to graduate, he was going to be matched to a program, and with match, you rank you interview with a certain number of places, and it can be all over the United States, and you rank what your favorite ones are, and they rank who their favorite candidates are, and then you match. And we found out Henry was born at 9:18 in the morning on March 20th, and at 11 o'clock on March 20th, we found out we'd been matched here in Milwaukee. So, and both sets of grandparents are here.
Yeah.
So that was a blessing, that we have my parents and Andy's parents to lean on, and they've taken very good care of us.
Yeah.
And it was nice that, like, if we had gone somewhere else, I don't know what that would have looked like, but we all got to kind of take care of each other this past year. And then another blessing is there are several ways that people reached out when Henry was born to welcome him into the world in creative ways. And it meant a lot to be able to say to him, even though he doesn't totally understand, but that he's part of something bigger and like part of a world that is beyond just our apartment. And that there are people who love him who have not even met him yet. That's such a blessing. So.
Yeah. That's amazing to think about, and value of church, right? That, like, we got to do your baptism prep with you, and like to think about welcoming someone into the family of God. I always say to baptism families, this is a responsibility on the parents, it's a responsibility on the community too, because the community, whether they know you or not, and I always say, no one's going to change your kids' diapers, but they are going to be there praying for you, praying for your child, and there to support you in the raising spiritually of your child's faith life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's huge. It's huge. Okay. Thank you for that walk down memory lane. I'm sure. Yes. I mean, you and I talk a lot, so I know the joys and the challenges that the last year has been, but what a blessing Henry is. Mm-hmm. and has led to probably the isolation of the last year, probably led to the moms group that we'll talk about in a little bit. So, always blessings. But before we get into that, I want you just to kind of give me a little bit of history about who you are. I'm sure there are people watching the interview that have known you since you were a little girl, and probably people that have not met you. So tell us about you.
Yeah. So I am part of the Shelledy family. So my parents, Rob and Therese Shelledy, are longtime St. Sebastian parishioners. And then I'm the oldest of the Shelledy siblings. So my sister, Katie, is almost done with a master's program in Seattle, and just started a job at the Seattle Aquarium there, which is we're very excited for her. And then my brother, Matthew, just graduated at Gonzaga University and is going to be working at Catholic Charities there. He actually comes back tomorrow for a visit. So today. He comes back today for a visit. So that will be nice. So member of the Shelledy family. And then I work,
Wait, let me ask you something. So when you say, and for people that don't know your dad or your mom, what you've referenced that, like, the part of the Shelledy family, what does it mean to be part of the Shelledy family?
Well, a lot of volume, and a lot of stories, and a lot of love.
Yes, love, yes.
So yes, that's and a lot of good food and drink. So that's the Shelledy family in a nutshell, right there.
I'm up for that family. That's good.
Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm.
You were going to talk about your job.
We crack ourselves up.
That's good. That's good.
Mhm.
You were going to talk about your job before I interrupted.
Okay, yes. So I recently started a job at the ALS Association Wisconsin chapter. So I'm part of their fundraising team. And that I honestly I stumbled into the opportunity through a like kind connection, as I was looking for a part-time job, and a good work friend knew the director who was looking for a part-time job, and so I didn't know much about ALS, and it's definitely been a privilege to learn more about the disease and to meet people who are affected by it. And John, you and I had talked recently, and you talked about how it's a lesson in the dignity of life and the dignity of dying. And that has definitely proved true as I learn more about the big work that I've signed up for.
Yeah. Yeah. And you didn't have much experience with it before.
I was not familiar.
Yeah. And it's a horrible disease that is very really important work to support. So,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of yours, and I know you have a lot of guests. So I think that it is awesome that you are doing that work. And I meant to say that in your introduction and got distracted by having babies and COVID and all that. So,
yeah, Henry, yes, he is very front of mind for me these days.
yeah, as he should be, as he should be. So, growing up as a Shelledy, also, I know that faith is an important core value in your family. Talk to me about your faith life.
Sure. Well, one thing that I'm very grateful for and have been thinking about a lot as I learn how to be a mom um, is um, is growing up in a faith community. And for me, I went to St. Sebastian School for like first grade to eighth grade, and then have um, I, I I've always been a part of the St. Sebastian's community, and recently, um, it's it's I think recently I've been very grateful for the roots that I've had in this faith community. So for me, that is always like faith is always community, that it is always a sharing of beliefs and a sharing of like care for each other in our journey through life. And I have felt in learning how to be a mom, very grateful for the examples of care that I had growing up at SEB. So for example, we did I was a part of the faith sharing group for Advent. And Maggie Blaha was my fourth grade teacher, and
Yeah.
fourth grade. And the definition of agriculture is the production of food and fiber through the growing of crops and raising of animals. And I still have that, and I hope that that's right. So I still have that from her. But she was also in this faith sharing group, and it was December was a hard. Andy was in a very hard month for his like the rotation that he was doing. It was long hours, and it was working almost every day, and it was just it was hard, and I missed him. And I talked about I remember I had just kind of matter of fact shared that it had been a long week for him, and um, I hadn't kind of I didn't mean to. I just kind of shared that he had worked a lot, and I loved Maggie Blaha shared about her how it had been for her when Mr. Blaha was a postal worker and his long hours, and just like it was a moment where she shared something that as someone sitting in her fourth grade class, like I would have never heard that story. And I like never would have had the opportunity to hear of like her perspective and just feel very affirmed that that there are people in my community that have been through it all, and they've seen it all, and they are leaning in, and they are taking care of each other, and I am one of those people that's getting taken care of. And so that was a special moment that made me grateful to be a part of Sub's faith community.
Well, I have so much to say in response. I think that also the isolation of the last year, thank God you had your roots, right? Because you felt really isolated if you didn't have those roots. So thank God for the roots of faith. But I remember that conversation with Maggie last December where you felt lifted up. But then, without getting too much in other people's stories, you have been able to be the person to lift other people up that have recently gone through huge challenges. And that is the cycle of our faith, I think.
I definitely have been reflecting on the gratitude that I have for the examples that have been set, and also the responsibility that means for me to be an adult that is active in this community that I'm so grateful for. And that the it's funny, I always talk about how, like, when I talk about going to school at Seb's, I reflect on how clueless I was of just like all of the people that made that experience possible, and all of the people that were watching us, like me and my siblings, grow and helping us grow. Like Margaret Weimer taught my Girl Scout troop etiquette. I remember going over to her, or I think we went to her house, and she taught us etiquette. And Tracy Wason, when I had just started in fundraising, I was helping set up something for the Seb's auction, and she offered to answer any questions I had about the profession as I went through. And there are, as a clueless kid, I had no idea that I took it for granted of how many people were such meaningful participants in our faith and in our community, and we're just building this wonderful thing that I just thought was totally normal. And now as an adult, I recognize just how incredible that is, that they worked so hard to build that, and that now it's my turn to plug in and make it possible for the next generation. So I am very grateful for St. Sebastian's, and yes.
But we do that. Of course, we do that for our community, but we do it even on a more personal, smaller level in our family. I mean, I always say that I was talking about like Jesus washing his disciples' feet and like this sign of servant leadership. And I said, that is the ultimate expression of servant leadership, but really close behind that is just being a parent, because you are absolutely in charge. You are the leader of this little person, and you're totally at their mercy.
Yes.
So we do, and my point is our kids don't appreciate that in the way that they will, someday when they are parents. So that's just what every generation does for every generation. So we support. But I am serious that I have seen you take on that responsibility, and you know that too already, and have done an amazing job. So whoever raised you well.
Mom, Dad. Yeah, I'll let them know you said that.
Okay, good. Yeah, tell them that I said that. Yeah. So now as an adult, and this is maybe where we can get into the moms group a little bit. Sure. Chelsea and I talked about this a few weeks ago too, but I do definitely want to talk about. I loved how what I love about the moms group so much is that it really truly organically developed. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So the way I first got connected with it is that Father Peter Patrick sent out an email to a bunch of moms at St. Catherine's and St. Sebastian's, and was like, I would love to make this happen. Who's in? And I was like, I am. So, and from there, Chelsea Duffy and I kind of became sort of leaders, but more like logistics people, because I really think we just like we carve out the space and the time, and then it really is just a group that is kind of, we're still new, so we're still trying to figure out exactly what we want this to be. But a lot of wonderful women who are just running with the ideas that we want to build community, and we want to nourish our faith lives, and we want to celebrate the things we have in common and take care of each other when things are hard. So it definitely, I have felt that void in my life the last year. And so when Patrick reached out about it, it definitely like was this is an invitation to grow deeper in my faith, and I would like to say yes to it. So we meet basically once a month in typically the third week of the month. Our meetings have been virtual so far, but we are looking into in-person things this summer. And all moms are welcome. And it's really important to us that it's a group that names motherhood takes a lot of different forms. And so if you identify as a mom, then you are welcome in this group. And we also take very seriously the fact that it is hard to do much when there are children in your life. And so so it very much is a come when you can, if you can, come late, leave early, come with a child, have your camera on or off, muted or not, casual, if you're here, we'd love to have you group.
Because no one understands that like the other people in that group. So
yeah, absolutely.
And I would call you and Chelsea the leaders, even though you might call yourselves logistics coordinators or something. You guys have shown great leadership. And I was not going to say this, and I guess this is my second curveball. I'm sorry. But as you've been talking, I've been thinking about it, and I think it would be wrong to not acknowledge this. That is, the group in the group's infancy has really been able to support members of the community, and specifically, and I want to absolutely respect her privacy, but I know the community has prayed for them. But Chelsea just lost a baby, and you and I talked after that happened, and of course we have prayed for Chelsea and her family. But like, as you were thrust into a unique situation by having to kind of facilitate that group after this happened, and what is our response as a community of faith? How do we support each other? How does this connect to our own grief and everything that we've gone through? So you handled that beautifully, and I guess I also just bring it up to say we continue to pray for Chelsea. And I know that the community has also like done meal trains and sent prayer shawls and all sorts of things, but that is who we are as church too.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so when I talked before about the examples that I've had at St. Sebastian's, one of the most another impactful example I've had of what it means to be a faith community is the people that I have seen comfort each other as we grieve in community. And I remember, so Bob and Ginny Polly would help with, they'd help with the school plays. And I loved the school plays. And they would lead us in song before the shows to both to warm us up and to celebrate what we were going to accomplish. And
they still do. They still do.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. I was in Judy Carney's first grade class, and I remember when she died, going to her funeral and seeing Bob and Ginny Polly see, like, comfort Jim Carney at the funeral, and seeing that as an example of St. Sebastian's community, how we grieve together and how we lean in, and that is, again, it's a responsibility that I take seriously. And Chelsea asked for prayers when she lost you and Patrick, and as a mama's group, we were absolutely happy to provide that and continue to provide that. And it was an important moment, I think, in our group to say, yes, what does that look like to comfort each other, and to make sure, in that spirit of being inclusive, to acknowledge that as mothers, we are there are women that are mothers to children that are here on earth, and there are mothers to children who are in heaven. And how do we name those children that are with us and who are not with us, and make sure that we all feel like that if people are comfortable sharing, that they know it is a safe group for that. So yes, we continue to pray for Chelsea, and do our best to walk with her in her grief, and hope that like the ability to do that, and the challenge to do that, becomes part of the fabric of the group.
Yeah, it's who we are as people of faith.
Mhm.
I remember the conversation when you told me about watching the Pollies, and you said it left such an impression on you. This is when we talked about it in the past. You said, I was just kind of in awe how they just knew what to say. They were not, they had courage to embrace, or whatever. And you said, I feel like there's a certain, like, I don't know if I have those words. And I said, we never have the words. We don't, because grief is hard, and loss
Mhm.
is impossible. And all we need to do is just show up and love each other and support each other. And you did that very well. So
One of my mom's favorite songs is Children Will Listen, from the musical Into the Woods. And that has been, as Henry develops more of a personality and has started to imitate me, that has been front of mind of children listen. And that has been a part of my reality at St. Sebastian's, is that I was the child, for a long time, and I was listening, and I was watching, and I was learning, and the lessons, like, I'm still realizing the lessons that I've taken from growing up in this community.
yeah, yeah, I think the community can be really proud.
Thanks, John. Thank you. You are always good for an ego boost.
You know what though? Why not be? Shouldn't we all do that for one another? Because
Yes, it's
it really
true.
costs me very little to lift you up, and it's so easy to do. So, um, Maggie, what I want to know now is, as you think about the future, what do you hope for?
Well, I hope that the Mamas group continues to grow and evolve into what the Mamas of St. Sebastian's and St. Catherine's want it to be. One thing personally, I'm looking forward to getting to know the St. Catherine's community more, because, like, as a cluster parish, I've been to mass there a few times, but through this group is kind of the most time I've spent with parishioners specifically of St. Catherine's, and so that's been a nice opportunity for me, to learn more of what it means to be a faith community with both of our parishes, or yes, both churches, because we're one parish. And then, um, on a personal note, I'm excited to see people again. And I'm excited, as the world hopefully continues to be a safer place, and things move forward. I am I am looking forward to getting to introduce Henry to more people, And yeah, and having my whole family together again in a less anxious time.
Yes, and we're getting there. So yeah,
We're getting there.
Henry's a little delayed coming out party to meet everyone,
Mhm.
but we're getting there, and we're seeing
Yeah.
changes weekly at this point, and the warmer
Mhm.
weather is gonna have us outside more, gathering together. So
Mhm.
if someone wants to join the Mamas group, what should
Yes.
we do?
Um, there's an email. I should know this because there's a general email, right? That they can send an email to and then they get added to the listserv. Like info. This is not good. Okay.
How about
Pause.
say, if someone wants to know more about the Young Mamas group, they can email me. Find my email on the parish website or in the bulletin, and I will get you to the right Maggie,
Mhm.
who can welcome you in and tell you when the next meeting is. Maggie, thank you so much for the time that you gave us this morning, this day, and I don't know what time it is right now, but thanks for the wonderful spirit you are to these parishes and the gift you are, and thank you so much.
Thank you, John. This was really nice.
It was really nice. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Thanks. Bye bye.